From BTN Studios, the Biblical Truth Network presents The Edge, a prison ministry podcast from Less Than the Least Ministries.
Hey, everybody, I'm Bill.
And I'm Stephanie.
And you're on
The Edge.
Well, another fine day.
Yes.
We uploaded the Hodgepodge 3, and it's getting a bunch of views right now. You guys really seem to like the Hodgepodge. And it was just kind of a last-minute thought, hey, we need to get something up there. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And we've done 3 of them now, and you guys are really loving those.
So we appreciate that feedback because we want to give you what you want.
Yeah. We're happy to do that. And there's a lot of content out there that we can put in it. Also want to give a quick shout out to Styles. We should get this episode through post-production in time before we are there at your unit. We're coming. The Behind the Razor Wire Texas Prison Concert Tour there, November 23rd, Sunday, November 23rd at noon. Be there or don't.
That's at Styles?
Yeah, that's at Styles. Yeah, we're back at Styles in Beaumont. Okay. Looking forward to coming.
I never know. He just says we have another one in November, and I'm like, okay.
We'll be there, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys. It's been a long time since we've been there. Yeah. Quick little piece of business. We got we get a lot of mail, and we were looking through our letters, and there were some letters to volunteers that were asking for people to send them money.
And contact their family members.
Yeah, and the Texas prison system, and these were from Texas, does not allow volunteers to do either of those things. And there are good reasons for that, because we don't know who might have their family may have been their victim. And typically, if you have contact with your family, you should be able to do that. You shouldn't need a volunteer to do that for you. And we're also not allowed to send you money. So just want you to know, we screen those.
Right.
So don't hold it against the volunteers if they don't write you back and don't send you money, because we screen those out and they don't see them. And that's by design.
We screen them out also because I guess I feel some kind of way, and you guys can get mad at me if you want, but it takes a lot for us to get a lot of different people to answer the prayer requests and the letters that come from you guys. And when someone answers one of those prayer requests and their first thing back to them is a request for money, that's kind of, to me, it doesn't sit right in my soul. And one of the reasons for asking for the money was because you wouldn't eat if you didn't have the money. And it's like, well, we know you might not eat great the food you want to eat, but you're going to eat. Yeah. So it's just, don't look at volunteers as an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. And another one we got was a guy who was asking for a Bible because he keeps Bibles as trophies.
Right.
That's not the reason we send Bibles behind ours.
And he needed it to be engraved with his name on it.
Yeah, we want to send you the Word of God, and that's what it's about. It's so you can open up the Word of God and read it. Yep. And so, again, we apologize. We're not trying to be mean, but we want you to understand. It's not that we're ignoring you.
And prison ministry is not a cash cow. People that do prison ministry, it's not. They're not making a bunch of money off of prison ministry. So we can help you with a lot of things, but money and specific items are usually not.
And our donors,
custom items are usually not those things
that they give us too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, hey, we got another wonderful guest for you, and we're so honored to have him on the show. And tell you all a little bit about him. His name is Noah Asher. He's an award-winning author. He's a podcast host, a speaker, and a CEO. He has a publishing company. Come on, man.
Yeah. We weren't sure who he was when we first, talked to him about coming onto the podcast. And about halfway through talking to him, we were like, oh my gosh, why would he want to be on our podcast?
Well,
it's in our little podunk podcast.
He's been in a lot of newspapers and magazines. He's known for his impactful work surrounding reentry, rehabilitation, and prison reform. His first book, Chaos, had over 1.4 million people that it's impacted.
Yeah.
It's sparking change and inspiring those on a path to purpose.
I'm
And
gonna hit him up on how to sell 1.4 million books.
yeah, we got to talk about that too. And he's got a new book out now. Here are the keys, and we
Yeah.
we want to talk about that today. He's been writing, speaking, and leadership. His mission is clear: to bring hope, help, and humor. By the way,
That's right.
hope, help, and humor. Help, and humor. H3. He's
Say
got an
it 10 more
H3
times
network
really
now.
fast.
Yeah, I hope that him. It's easy for me to say. Anyway, it's all about helping those who are living in their darkest
Yes.
moments, which is probably a lot of you. And with that, we want to welcome him in. Noah Asher, welcome to The Edge.
Thank you for having me, both of you. Thank you so much for this.
Oh, thank you. What,
Yeah.
what an honor. Oh, and I need to change this real quick. Sorry. Okay. Thank you for being here. We are so honored to have you on our podcast. Man, brother, you are a busy dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, my body tells me the same thing. It's just time for a nap. We just finished up a conference and they were like, "What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, "It's not the Super Bowl. I'm not going to Disney World. I just want to bed. That's all I want." So,
I know the feeling. I felt that way after our fundraiser
Yeah.
that we had here this
Can you
last month.
imagine that if that when you were his age, you were something like the same amount of hours kind of thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I wasn't that
But
kind
you
of
didn't have all
successful.
that going on.
No,
No,
I
you
did
were working
not.
for other people.
Yeah, I was making other people budget
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I was the same way. I was working in the hotel industry for a while, doing some awesome stuff, and then I was like, "I'll do my own thing. That way, no one can tell me when to work." And then I went from 40-hour weeks, 50-hour weeks to 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Now it's like,
Yeah.
wait, I went backwards. So
It
What
wasn't the
happened?
purpose for
Yeah,
this.
all of a sudden the concept of control kind of gets flipped, doesn't it?
Yeah.
most definitely.
Yeah. Um, So Noah, we've had a chance to talk to you and get a little bit of your
Mhm.
backstory. One of the things that I think our viewers will find interesting is that with all this success, it's born out of some adversity,
Mhm.
some chaos. And could you tell us a little bit about that backstory?
Yeah, so my own life has been chaotic, and it started when I was in middle school, and I was taken advantage of when I was in middle school, and it just really started the spiraling of shame for me. It led me to alcohol, eventually to pills. Before I knew it, I was in a jail cell, sitting on the floor, thinking life was over. There's no way you could ever come back from that, is what I thought. And unfortunately, I actually tried taking my life while I was inside, and spoiler alert, it did not work because I'm sitting here today. But those moments were so overwhelming because I couldn't see a future. I couldn't see past the storm that was right in front of me. And so I tried taking, the easy way out and it didn't work. And I remember having to come to this grip of like, okay, I can't change where I am physically, but I can change where I am mentally and where I am spiritually. And so I had to lean into that while I was inside.
And I think when you're in that much pain that comes from, that shame and then being arrested on top of it and finding yourself in a jail cell, a lot of people would tend to have those thoughts and sink to that deep depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
thank
And
God. God said, no, no, no. I got work for you to do.
Well, and other than Uncle Jailbird Joey in Back to the Future,
Yeah.
nobody as a child sits and think, "What do you want to be when you grow up?"
Yeah.
I want to go to jail.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. And just having that.
bucket list.
Yeah, I had such a sweet moment with God inside where it was just like, okay, you're trying to take your life when I really just want you to give it to me.
Yeah.
And I had no choice at that point other than to read and to write. There was nothing else to do. I was
Yeah.
pre-tablet days listeners, and so we didn't have awesome shows like this. And so all I could do was read and write. And so I really leaned into that while I was inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did as well when
Yeah.
I was incarcerated. It kind of turned it into my seminary moment for the first
Mhm.
7 years.
Yeah.
Um, that your first book, Chaos, it really appeals to me because I remember one time we had a volunteer come into prison and I asked him, I said, "Hey, how's it going?" He said, "My life is just so chaotic right now." And I said, "Well, praise God, that's wonderful." He said, "What?" And I said, "God does some of his best work through chaos.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
universe was created out of chaos.
Right.
Look at the foot of the cross. You don't think there wasn't a lot of chaos when Jesus was being crucified and through his death and resurrection and the early church? Chaos, man.
Yeah.
All of Christianity was born out of chaos.
Yeah.
Right. You're so right. And that's really what this book hits is different people in the Bible who've struggled with things. We look at, of course, Joseph. We go from his story of prison, um, or really to a pit, to a prison, to a palace. And we look at Gideon and how he went up against 132,000 Midianites against just 300 men on his side. And so we look at different stories of people in scripture where they were up, all odds were against them. And we understand that God is more than just the creator of the universe. He's also the God who breaks odds. He
Yep.
breaks chains, he breaks odds, he does all of those things. And so the book really hits that. And you would be blown away how many people tell me, like at book signings, they're like, chaos, that sounds like my life. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So
It sounds like life. You could leave
Yeah.
out the my,
Yeah.
right? It sounds like life. That's what life is, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Most people's.
Yeah, but at some point, and I heard in a recent, or I don't know how recent it was, but I recently heard in a podcast that you did where you talked about Saturday seasons,
yeah.
and I wanted to kind of, I don't know if people will know exactly what that means. I hope that you'll tell us a little bit about Saturday seasons.
Yeah. And I was actually thinking, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was thinking about when you said earlier in my bio, like, oh, he's gone from this to this, and I think a lot of times we read articles or stories where it's all about from prisoner to published author, but there's a lot in between. There's a lot of roller coaster moments in between that we have to understand that those are the breaking moments of from point A to point B. And that's what the Saturday season that I like to talk about a lot is I think when we equate it to scripture and we see on Friday, which we call Good Friday, it wasn't good in the moment. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
anything but good in the moment. Jesus was on the cross for our sin and he's being punished. He's being whipped and crucified. And so that was Friday. And as Christians, we can see it as good because we know what Sunday brings.
Right.
I think for a lot of people, they've had that moment of chaos where they've had Friday happen and they're waiting on a Sunday moment of resurrection of their purpose, resurrection of life in general, resurrection of relationships and so on. That's what they're yearning for on that Sunday. And I think a lot of times for the disciples, it was, 24 hours from, Friday to then everything that happened on Sunday. But what about Saturday? And I think for a lot of us, we sit in these Saturday seasons where Friday has happened and Sunday's hopefully just around the corner. So what do we do when we're in the Saturday season? For the disciples, those guys ran back to their old way of life, right? A lot of them were fishermen. Where did Jesus find them? They were back fishing. They reverted back to their old ways. And
Well,
so
and even though they'd been told that there was a Sunday coming,
yeah,
they they couldn't believe it and couldn't picture it and couldn't imagine it in their lives, right?
yeah, so true. And so I think for a lot of us, we find ourselves in that same predicament where we're like, okay, Friday happened, Sunday's coming. What do I do now in the waiting? And I think for a lot of us, we consider this Saturday season, we think it's a season of suffering, but really it's a season of schooling. It's an opportunity to learn and to grow. Our greatest textbook of all in the season of schooling, obviously scripture, where we can dive into his word and learn from some people like Joseph, where he went from a pit to a prison to a palace. And if he can do it, we can do it because we have the same
Mhm.
God. And so leaning into our biggest textbook of all, and we have the greatest headmaster of all too, named
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. We were at the Ramsey unit this last weekend, and they were doing a volunteer, or no, it was for a service. We were there for a service,
Yeah.
and after the service, one of the guys came up to me and said, "Well, I hope you guys have a great weekend." And I said, "Man, I'm looking forward to a crummy one." And he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I really need a crummy weekend because without the crummy ones, you can't really appreciate the good ones."
That's
You
true.
know, it's the contrast that makes life joyful. There
Right.
can't be joy without sorrow.
Right.
There can't be love really without hate and anger. I mean, it takes both sides of the coin. Otherwise, it's just flat, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what roller coasters like during that Saturday season. A lot of times it does feel like a roller coaster. It's not just all incline or all decline.
Mhm.
It's a lot of both. And it's not like a happy Disney ride. It's more of like a local county fair ride that you think's gonna just end your life, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just going to end in the destruction. They
Yep.
put that bad boy up in 30 minutes and people are riding it. So it's like that
Yeah.
sort of roller coaster experience for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, we know a lot of you guys and gals out there. You're in your Saturday season, and you're wondering, is it ever going to end? One of the guys that we talked to recently, I think he was at the Stringfellow unit. James, I'm talking about you, brother. He's been down a long time and just got a 3-year set off
Yeah.
on parole, and
Mm.
feeling very discouraged. And some people had come and told him, "Hey, I heard from the Lord that you're going to be getting out soon." And then he gets a 3-year set off, and he's like, "Wow, what is this all about?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a tough moment, isn't it?
it is. And there's a Maverick City song that says, if I only knew back then what I know right now. And that's that nothing is wasted in his hands. And I know when you're in that Saturday season, when you have those moments, it's hard to find the rainbow like that Noah experienced, after the storm. It's hard to find those moments when you're in that. But one day you will look back on this, James, and you'll see that, if I only knew back then what I know right now, that he is using this time for something greater, something good. And that's why I love what you're doing with this podcast, because I think a lot of times it's easy to say, look at Joseph, he went from a pit to a prison to a palace. Great, hallelujah. But the boy did not have to do a background check. You know what I mean? Like this is so many years ago. So I'm glad that you talk to people who are like fresh living it, and to be able to say, I know you can make it through this, people. James, I know you can make it through this. How do I know? Been there, done that. I'm on the other side, and it's all because of the grace of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that once at some point there becomes so many of those stories that you can't say, well, that's just him. Well, and
Yeah.
that's just her, and that's just
Mhm.
when there's enough of them, it's not just them, and that there are some keys to making that happen,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things that's our favorite, isn't it, honey, about not waiting till you get out
Oh yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Working on it.
Yeah, you got
Have
to
it all ready
work
to
it out
go.
while you're living
Yeah.
in.
Have it ready to go.
Yeah.
I
And
love
that's
that.
kind of what your new book is all about. I hear the keys, and I'm going to put up a little splash on that. It's available on Amazon, and
Yeah.
encourage all of you who are incarcerated to have your family members order that for you
Mhm.
off of Amazon, because this book is amazing, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about I Hear the Keys, if you.
Yeah, so the mantra all throughout the book is this idea that life does not start when your sentence ends. Your life is now. You can be productive now. You can work on yourself now. And so I hear keys. I feel like a lot of reentry books are called like Unlocking This or Freedom, 7 Ways for Freedom and things like that. And so I was like, I want something a little different. And so we titled it I Hear Keys because it's also a declaration to say, if you can hear them, they're within reach. And so let's get them. And what I
Yeah.
realized a lot of times while I was sitting in a cell, I'm looking for keys, I'm looking for ways out, and some of those keys were in my pocket the whole time. And so it's helping people find not only the right keys, but the right doors for
Yeah.
those keys. And so we look at stuff in that book like unlocking freedom within, because a lot of times we're battling our own mind while we're inside. But also we look at probation parole support because that's always a scary topic. And then Man, we look at employment, we look at financial management. We even talk to somebody who in the book and with the video series that's available for free as well. We talk about the importance of health and diet. So we talk about full picture from start to finish, all parts of reentry
I love it.
that people can find and help them wherever they are today, because life does not start when you're sentenced. Life is now.
Right.
You see that video?
In other words, don't get out and go gorging on 2 full packages of double stuffed Oreos.
Yes, I call it, you remember college people get the freshman 15?
Yeah.
When I got out, I got the freedom 15, maybe the
Yeah.
freedom 30. So, I just started eating everything, and I realized it was really psychological because I'm going, this could be my last meal. They could come after me again. So I'm like, every fry, I'm sick to my stomach. I'm eating every fry though, because it's like, I want to cherish it. And I realized, man, I'm doing this wrong.
It's funny. Bill and I were discussing this yesterday, and just yesterday. And I said to him, it comes from having been food insecure. Anytime that you've been food insecure, because I was homeless and food insecure for a while. And anytime that's happened, when you do have access to food again, boy, it's hard to not get real big. It's hard to not just eat and eat and eat until you're stuffed and you're,
Yeah.
because you don't know when it's going to go away again up here, So
Right.
yeah, it's almost like a form of PTSD that you go through.
I was in a class at I think it was at Goree, and the teacher asked what everybody's plan was for when they get out, for where they were going to go eat. And guys were talking about this steakhouse and Red Lobster and all this. And I said, I'm going to find the crummiest fast food place I can go to. And they're like, what is wrong with you? And I said, no,
Yeah.
look, the crummiest fast food place on the face of the earth will be miles better than what I've been eating for the last 15 years. And
Yeah.
I can slowly work my way up to Red Lobster, and it'll be a great eating experience for years to
That'd
come.
be a great progression.
Yeah. Great progression there.
Yes.
I think those conversations, I think that conversation's good though for people inside that already have now, because so much of our physical health, affects our mental well-being. And so having some sort of diet program, and not just diet meaning cutting calories, but diet of like eating better, as well as also working out and finding routines that you can do starting now, that becomes a habit for when you get out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, your book, I Hear Keys. A few things that I really like about that title. One is it is the audio version of the visual light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Another thing that I really like about it is that I hear keys. There is no one magic bullet. There are several keys to successful reentry, not just one. And that one isn't just getting out.
Yeah.
Freedom isn't a key to success.
Yeah.
Getting out of prison is not a key to success. There are a lot of keys to success, but really getting out of prison is the least of those, I think.
Right.
It's just a lock on disengaging. So it's not
actually,
success.
Right. In this book, I talk about one chapter, and I still try to do like the hope help humor where I share some funny stories. And like I go on a rant about how much I hate mimes for some reason. I don't know. My ADHD just hit it there. But so I have those moments. But I talk about how when I bought my house, I bought one of those. I wanted to be cool. So I put one of those like keypads on my door where it's either fingerprint or a code. And the reality is it's my code because it unlocks my house. The neighbor can have the same sort of keyless entry to their house, but it's a different code. And I think a lot of us are trying to put in my code to get into their house. And we have to understand that we all have like different orders, different progressions, different things. And so chapter 5 may apply for you right now before chapter 4 does, and that's okay. But having it all collectively together really does matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yep.
Yeah. Learning how to balance a checkbook for finance management wasn't one of the issues that I had.
Yeah.
Maybe it is an issue for somebody else, right? And so everybody's kind of got their own map, and everybody's situation when they get out is different in terms of family support,
Hmm.
what kinds of meds they might need, what kind of transportation they need, where they're going,
Whether they
what
have money in the bank or not.
yeah, who their parole
Yeah.
officer is, if they're on parole, how much time they have. There are so many variables
Yeah.
Yeah.
that it's hard to come up with a recipe that suits
Yeah,
everybody.
there's no one size
Right.
fits all. To any more than there's a one size fits all method for anything. I
Yeah.
really don't think.
That's even when you put in your GPS. A lot of times you put in a destination of where you want to go. And a lot of times there's 3 routes to get there. There's
Hmm.
never just one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some may feel shorter, but then someone pulls out in front of you and causes a dent in your life. And then,
Yeah.
you have some other things to deal with. And like a good neighbor, State Farm is not always there. And so you
That's
have to
right.
deal with them properly. And then the shorter distance ended up being a more costly, path. But the reality is there's different paths. And a lot of times when you find yourself on the road, you just got to trust the GPS, our internal GPS, the Holy Spirit, to
Yeah.
lead you properly and know that there may be a detour or two along the way, and not to allow that to like just consume you and take you over and go, no, 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 that messes up my 5-year plan.
Yeah, and we'll make mistakes because we're
Yeah.
humans, we're flawed. So don't make a mistake and think right away, oh, that's it, I'm done. I can't make it. I can't do it. This isn't working for me.
Yeah.
Just pick up, okay, it was a mistake. Keep on your course.
Yeah.
Now that one is a hard one for me.
I know it is.
Yeah, that is that
Yeah.
is a
It's
tough
very
one.
hard for me too. Again, ADHD. So I can't even focus ahead a lot of times. I'm like squirrel, looking at
Yeah.
every little
Hey,
thing along the way.
I'm
that's me.
CDO,
Yeah.
You're
which
what now?
CDO.
What is that?
That's OCD, but with the letters in
In
alphabetical order
alphabetical
the
There
way
you
they
go.
should
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. So I feel you on that. And
That's him.
parts, those different things, really do affect us. And I think that,
Mhm.
again, the freedom within, a lot of times it's coming to terms with certain things about yourself and understanding, those boxes like that you have to have a key to unlock. And then inside the box has like a bunch of keys.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like that master lock box. So you have to unlock first and really lean into who you are and understand that your worst moment
Yeah.
doesn't have to be your last moment. And learning that about yourself and learning different quirks that you may have or whatever, dealing with those. So then when detours come along your way, when barriers show up, you're not
Yeah.
stuck.
Mhm.
That's a that brings a great analogy to mind, and that is, have you ever seen these Japanese puzzle boxes?
Yes, yes, I have.
It's like a solid block of wood,
Mhm.
and you got to slide this panel a little bit that way, and then this one
Yeah.
goes a little bit that way, and that one, and this one, and eventually, with all these machinations that you have to move around, the box will open. But
Hmm.
every box is different, and which way and how much you move things, and in what order, it's different on every box,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so
Everyone
that
has.
said, so that said, then how do you write a book, I Hear Keys, that helps people unlock their path to success?
Yeah, it's definitely a hard path to understand. Like to in this book for sure, chaos has a lot of anecdotes and fun stories, but also very like, boom, here's the point, mic drop moments. And I Hear Keys, I wanted to write it a little different to be more like just reentry focused and not tell too many stories about like here this is how I did it, because I didn't want people
Mhm.
to think again that it's a one size fits all
I'm going to
Right.
copy you.
solution. Right. And so to provide more steps, things that they can do to add to their life. One of the things is like finding community matters, uh, understanding gratitude and what that looks like matters. And so really leaning into, those sorts of concepts instead of just saying, here's what I did, do it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the guys we had on from PEP here recently, Chris Valka and Jeremy
Mhm.
Jones. One of the things that program does is they give everybody a new identity, and you get to define who you are, right? And that I think is huge too.
Mhm.
Figuring out who you are has to be part of that process, and you have the right to change who that is. You don't have to be the same old you. You
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
a new you, right? Find that new man, be that
Yeah.
new creation, and define what that is for you.
Yeah, I actually have a chapter in Chaos that I kind of did a little bit of that crossover in I Hear Keys on identity. And it really, I use the Lion King as an example. Here you have Simba, who thinks that he's now a murderer because his father died. He thinks he's a murderer, he's a failure, so he runs. He runs from everything. And it wasn't until his father shows up in the sky and says, Simba, remember who you are. That's when he woke up and he had that moment. And I think for a lot of people, we're sitting here thinking we are a murderer, we are a failure, we are an inmate number, and we forget who we are. We're not a lost cause, we're a found child.
And you're not a label.
And
Nobody's a
Yeah.
label.
Yeah. And
A
so we
lot
have
more
to lean
complex
into
than
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that is that like the enemy knows this playbook so well. He understands that our calling is irrevocable, as Romans 11 says. So he doesn't go after our calling, he goes after our character. And we see that with the Lion King, for example. Scar knew that with Mufasa out of the picture, Simba would be the rightful heir to the throne. And so Scar goes, okay, I can't change that. I can't change his royalty, his lineage. But what I can do is make him question everything about himself and his identity. And the enemy does that a lot of times with us. We are co heirs with Christ. We have that lineage, we have that royalty through Jesus.
Yeah.
And so the enemy doesn't always attack our calling and our lineage, he attacks our character.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sometimes he attacks both.
Yeah.
Yeah. He will try and make it
Right.
look like doors are closed that
Yeah.
aren't closed,
Easy.
and
Or have people to tell you not to sing.
yes,
Yeah.
talk about that for a second.
But yeah, my entire time growing up as a kid, I was told if I would open my mouth to sing, which was all the time. Okay, I was that annoying little sister that went around the house singing everything. Was constantly told, stop singing. You can't sing. Nobody wants to hear you. Nobody needs to hear that. Just stop. And that went right straight to my heart and thinking, and it made me so nervous that when I did try to get up on stage and sing, my throat would close up. All I could get out was a little bit of air, high pitched air. And that
Wow.
was about it. So it took until I was in my 50s before I was started doing some karaoke. And it was right around the same time that Jesus reclaimed me. And within 6 months, I was on a platform doing praise and worship.
Wow.
So, it's just the enemy has a way of really trying to keep us from our purpose.
Mhm.
And he'll use whatever he can. Character. I mean, he hit my character too. So I wouldn't have had to come back to Jesus had he not hit my character.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think one of his biggest tools that he uses for the calling, attacking the calling, is you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? How often?
Yeah. You'll humiliate yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
You're not capable
You
of
won't
that.
be able to find a job.
Yeah.
You won't be able
Right.
to do this. You can't do
Yeah.
that. Right. And then he goes at your identity. Right.
Mhm.
And he
Yeah.
uses that as a way to attack your calling and saying, you can't, it'll never happen. It'll never work.
Yeah.
That can't be. Right.
That's so true.
And so overcoming that is key. Do you have any kinds of tools in I Hear Keys that people can use to help them with those
Yeah.
that come up?
Good
in
question. The first kind of thing that I lean into in that identity chapter is that first question you have to ask yourself is when you're asking or when you're saying to yourself, I can't do this or I can't do that or I am this or I am that. Ask yourself this question: who told you that? You know what I mean? Like really
That's
take a moment and go, wait, who actually said this about me? And who told me that I can't? Is it just another person inside said, oh man, when you get out, you're going to have to deal with this. You're going to do this, Is that where you're hearing it? Where are you actually learning this from? And so that's a good place
Yeah.
to start. And as Christians, another thing that I highly recommend is just always kind of, it's okay to say not today to Satan and to the enemy when he starts that. There's a song by Hillsong. It's an older song, but it says that let the devil know not today, not now, not ever again. But sometimes you have to hold on to that and say, no, not today. I'm not doing that. That's not going to be who I am. And again, I think when we shift to gratitude, I know I mentioned that earlier, but when we shift into gratitude and say, it's not about what I don't have, it's about what I do have, and holding on to that, it really points our focus to what God has given us and what He is really, you know, uh, like what's the word? Has entrusted in us to hold on to. And Mark Batterson, he's an awesome author, and I got to interview him recently on one of my podcasts, and I love him so much. But he says, what we don't what we don't take for gratitude. Let me say it over again. What we don't take for gratitude, we take for granted.
Mm.
So it's super important to take time to find moments that you're thankful for. Where you're located right now, if you're watching this inside, you may go, man, the food is horrible. But you know who I get to call later today to tell about that too is my family. And so it's just awesome that you have that person in your life. So you'd have to find those moments and take a moment to be thankful. Be thankful for shows like this where you can sit back and relax for whether it's 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes to an hour. Have those moments and find those things that you can be grateful for. I do have to say this. This is something Mark Batterson, because he's so brilliant. He says all ologies point to theology, and he talks about how you can talk about biology and talk about how intricate just our cells are in our body, and it points back to there has to be a God, right? And so he was talking about photosynthesis one time, and he says that God said, "Let there be light," and we're still seeing that happen today through photosynthesis. We're still seeing light happen. And so when you go out on the yard and you put your toes in the grass, that's because of the sun beating down on the grass, which allows it to grow. And so ever since the beginning of creation, where God said, let there be light, we're still able to rest and hold and see that happen today. And so there's those little things we can be grateful for wherever you are.
And I've got a little tool I'll throw out there too for the I can't. Because I remember I think it was Jennifer was her name at Plain State one time. She had an idea of something, a ministry that she wanted to do, but she said, I can't, I just don't know how. And I said, you're right. You can't, but I know someone who can. And
Yeah.
if you will just let him work through you, then he does it and he gets the glory for it. You're just the vessel.
Yeah.
So when you hear I can't, you can say, okay, devil, you're right. I can't, but I know someone who can. And his word tells me I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So if he's given you that calling, he will give you what you need to be able to accomplish that. He's not going to call you to something he's not going to give you the tools to do.
And trust me, I mean, believe me, this one, 100%. He doesn't always call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So if you feel inadequate to do something that you feel that our Father is calling you towards and Jesus is calling you towards, then just say, oh, thank you for blessing me with this, God, because I know that you'll qualify me for it.
And honestly, when you find something that is bigger than yourself, God's like, yes, because then he knows you're not going to lean on your own understanding. You're going to lean on his.
Exactly.
And so tell yourself today, if I can't, I know who can. And so holding on to that is definitely a super important thing. If you can download music, Brandon Lake has a new song that says, the great I am can. And he says, I can't, but you can. And so we have to understand that that's where it is. And that's where we should rest and hold into. I think a lot of times when we want to live comfortable lives, but God calls us to live comfortably uncomfortable.
Yeah. We all have a father who's a superhero.
Yeah.
Really. He can get anything done.
He can.
Yeah.
And he will.
Yeah.
Right? If it's his plan,
absolutely,
he's going to make sure it gets accomplished.
It will be done.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of you figuring out what that is. And there's kind of a trick to that, isn't there? Because there, especially for someone who has a lot of options.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it won't be scary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't mean there won't be obstacles either.
Yeah.
Because so I heard someone recently talking about, God didn't remove the Red Sea.
Yeah.
He parted it. Right.
Yeah.
When David got a kingship, he was given a Goliath. Right. When the Jews were given freedom from slavery, they were given 40 years in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect.
yes, right, yeah. So
Yeah.
you've got to expect that, and that's part of the plan, isn't it? To expect the unexpected and to
Yeah.
be ready for setbacks and to realize that they're coming and life isn't going to be all gravy.
Even for prison ministry, as an example, I knew that this was my calling from the moment that I went in and sang You Say, and I was like, that's it. I know that this is what God has planned for me. And that doesn't mean that we haven't shown up to units to find out that they just shut down, or that they're not going to, call people out for or, they're not going to call people out to the service for one reason or another, or
Yeah.
that we have to leave early, or they're doing pill count in the middle of it, or pills or
They'll call, yeah.
or head count in the middle of it. So there's going to be obstacles. There's still going to be things that you're going to need to work through, overcome, pray about. But that doesn't mean it's not your calling.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we think hardship equals enemy. Like Satan is like, oh, he's attacking me today. And it's like, first off, he's not omniscient. He's not omnipotent. And so like he can't be with you and me today. Only Jesus can do that. And so we give him a lot. We basically give Satan way too much credit a lot of times. And we're saying that, oh man, the hardships are going to come and it's just the enemies coming after me because I was driving down the road and my car stopped. And it's like, no, dummy, you forgot to put gas in it. Like that's not the enemy. That's you. Like,
you're not preparing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we think like the attacks on us are always just from the enemy, but sometimes the attacks are something that we've done to ourselves. And I'm living proof of that. Like I've been in a cell and I'm sitting here going, oh man, it's just the enemy. And it's like, no, I found myself here because of what I did, And
I've learned to ask, what is it that I need to learn in this?
Yeah.
I had never blamed the enemy for anything, because if God's letting it happen, then it's God's will. So what I choose to ask is, what is it that you're trying to teach me through this, God?
Yeah. And he will. He'll use it.
Yeah.
That goes back to that Genesis 50 scripture, 50:20, where it says, what the enemy intended for evil, God used for good.
Yep.
And, it's understanding that he can use anything. But that verse actually continues. And this is something that this is why I wrote Chaos and why I continue to do what I do, is that the verse actually continues. It says, what the enemy intended for evil, God used for good to save many. And that reminds me every day that my suffering can be for someone else's saving. And it's so much bigger than me if I allow it to be used that way. And so that's why I'm writing books. That's why I'm doing things like this, is to share with the world that wherever you find yourself, whatever chaotic Saturday season you find yourself in, Sunday is coming. And I know that because not only does scripture say that, but I've seen it in my own life.
Yeah.
So where does the journey start for hearing the keys? How, I'm sitting in a prison cell and I'm watching, and this all sounds great, but how do I get started? I'm sitting in SEG.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be here for at least another 10 years.
Right.
What do I do?
Yeah, that's for me. That's why the first chapter is about that freedom within, like unlocking that key first is kind of like the master key. Because while the other stuff may take different paths as we've talked about, bottom line is we all need to understand and come to the realization that life does not start when your sentence ends. Life is now. And if you can't see past the rain to see where you're going, you'll just sit in it. In fact, in Chaos Talk, I share the story where one time I'm on the side of this mountain in the lane, like it was a 2-lane road, meaning traffic was going both ways, but around the curves, it was a 1-lane road. And so you would come up on a vehicle and all you could do is stop and like let someone pass you or you pass them. And it was just so dangerous. But anyway, we're coming off that road one night. It's getting dark. It starts to rain so heavily that none of us could see in front of us, beside us, or behind us. So all we could do is just stop and wait it out.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the storm did let up and we could see again and we could go forward again. And so for a lot of people who feel as if like the storm is so heavy in their life that they can't see in front of them, beside them, or behind them,
Yeah.
Sometimes all you can do is understand and hold on to the realization of the hope that the storm will let up and I will be able to move forward again.
Hmm.
So I think the first step for people is understanding and kind of like agreeing with themselves that, you know what, this will let up,
Yeah.
and starting there, that's key number one. That's step number one.
And if you're watching not from inside a prison unit, this all applies to you as well. I personally have not ever seen the inside of a prison unit to live there, but I visit a lot. But but I had an over 10-year period of chaos that was just devastating, and I was with Bill towards the end of that chaos, and I remember saying to him, I feel like I don't feel that closeness with God that I once felt. And I'm having such a hard time finding him in this, seeing
Yeah.
where he is in all this. And I was letting my faith slip during that time, but he let me know in a very strong way that he's there. He's in there through it all. And
Yeah.
that and that's when I started coining the phrase that this is only temporary housing anyway. I'm living for the the next life,
Yeah.
not this
Well,
one.
yeah, I think a lot of times too, because this is where that mantra kind of came from about life doesn't start when you're sentenced. Because when I got out, I was kind of like, oh, I'll do that when I get off probation, even. So like it does apply for outside because that's when it kind of clicked
Yeah.
for me. I'm like, wait, it can happen now. I don't have to wait till probation is over. That's
Yeah.
really where it kind of found me was I was starting to kind of make a to-do list of what I could do later. And I was like, no, the time is now. I'm called to do it now. Whatever God's leading me to, I need to lean into that. And we see that with the Israelites,
Mhm.
100%. The wilderness was I think it was it's only a few day journey basically.
Yeah.
And they turned it into a 40-year one because they they just couldn't do what they needed to do in that time and in that season. And it cost a lot of generational bondage, but also a lot of generations were lost through that period. And I think a lot of times we have to understand that we have to march forward. We can't always focus on behind us. You mentioned
Mhm.
the Red Sea a minute ago. God parted it, great, but He also slammed that bad boy shut. And I think that I think personally the reason is for me, my Red Sea would have to be shut because God knows me enough to know that when life gets hard in front of me, let's just go back. That's what the
Yeah.
Israelites did. So many times they're like, man, at least we had food in Egypt. It's like, wait, you're talking about the place where you were enslaved?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so how
Yep.
easy they forgot. And they have like
Yeah.
that Dory from Finding Nemo sort of memory where
Yeah.
they just forget so quickly. And that's me all day long.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think, honey, you were right on the money. The justice system doesn't have a monopoly on prisons. There are all kinds of prisons that don't involve
Yeah.
jail cells.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so all of this applies to you
Mm-hmm.
who are watching this. You may not be in a prison cell, but that doesn't mean you're not in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually wrote Chaos with that in mind. I was like, I don't want this to be a prison book. Chaos, I was like, that's why I used a word that was so interchangeable for people.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
For some, chaos is incarceration or addiction. For some, it's the loss of a loved one. For some, it's divorce. For some, it's job loss. For some, it's,
Childhood trauma.
right. It's some
Yeah.
sort of trauma, something that they've been through. And right when I was finishing the editing and everything for that book, I actually was like ready to send it off. And my father passed away unexpectedly. And I was like, no, I need this book back because I need to talk about it from a place of
Yeah.
right now to understand I have no idea what tomorrow looks like
Yeah.
other than I got to go to the funeral home and bury my father,
Uh,
And so how do we deal with that sort of chaos? And so that's why I wrote that book. And I think for a lot of people, the chaos is kind of like doubled because prison is chaotic, but also
mhm.
a lot of times when we look at why someone is locked up, a lot of times it starts with some sort of rooted trauma. And so we realize, oh, wow, chaos in their life is now what led them to the chaos of prison. And
Yep.
so dealing with those roots is everything. I think so many times in prison we ask, what's wrong with you, but the question is what happened to you.
Yeah,
When we
exactly.
lean into that, we're going to
Yeah.
find a lot of trauma.
And there's a lot of people that want to treat the symptoms, but they don't want to really dig deep and get to those traumas and get those roots dug out.
Yeah.
And until you get those roots dug out, I think it's almost impossible to let go of them to be able to move forward.
You know, I actually like that you just said that because my word for this year, I do a word every year, and my word has been grow. And I was just looking at how we've had growth this year and all the great things that have happened in 2025. And what's funny is, you know, my yard can testify weeds are the worst. And, you know, that you can't, if you don't pluck them out at the root of the weed, they'll keep growing back. But what it's doing is it's stunting the growth of my actual plants in my, you know, in my bushes. And so,
Chokes out the good stuff.
yeah, so we have to not only just say, let's grab the top of the weed and throw it until we get to the root of it.
Yep.
It's just going to keep coming back. And what it's really doing is stunting our further growth.
Yep.
I had somebody tell me one time, if you can't tell the difference between a weed and a flower, you just cut it off. If it grows back, it's a weed.
Yeah, that's so true. So true.
That's funny.
That's the way they work.
That's
Yeah.
how it felt, huh?
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen here the information for Chaos and for I Hear Keys, because I know that you guys and gals are going to want to get a copy of this, and I hope that you have family that can help you get that. But while we've got some time left, I want to hear a little bit about H3 Network and Hope Help Humor and what you're doing there and what's going on.
Yeah, so this idea of hope, help, humor, I try to use it when I write, but also when I speak places. I think the hope part is so crucial. It's because a lot of times people are right there on the ledge. They're ready to jump. And so hope is telling them, you will get through this. Your worst moment isn't your last moment. Let's get away from the ledge. And if that's you today, I do want you to know, if you're on the ledge, I do want you to know your worst moment isn't your last moment. And there is a future for you. Take a step back. Okay. So that's that, but that's the hope part. The next part is the help part. I think a lot of times we get people off the ledge and they're going, cool. Now what? Now what do I do? And so that's why help is so important. And I think humor, when we can laugh about what we've been through, we own it instead of it owning us. And let's be real, joy is pretty much the only weapon that you can take into prison that won't get you sent to the hole. So highly recommend joy. So that's a great weapon for you in this season of your life. And so hope, help, and humor. And so I really started writing that way, speaking that way, and I started doing a podcast. Inside Out is the name of it. And the whole goal was to bring hope, help, and humor. We even played a game with our guests, very similar to like Jimmy Fallon style, having a lot of fun. And we just saw how it was really touching so many different people in completely different ways. And I realized this is so much bigger than just one show. And so we just launched this thing called the H3 Network. And I'm guessing you can guess why there's three H's. And so that's why it's called H3 Network, is because we want to push all three of those things. And so what we've done is we've created a place of shows and blogs that all point to hope, help, humor, but for criminal justice topics, such as incarceration, reentry, addiction, recovery, and criminal justice reform. And so starting in January of 2026, we have all of these shows that are going to start launching Monday through Friday.
Love it.
Oh, awesome. We'll have to check those out. Where will those be? Is that on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble? I mean, what platforms are you?
They're going to be on Spotify and Apple, but also on YouTube for the full videos. I think the videos, we're seeing a lot of people love just watching and not only listening. So we will have that component as well. And you guys interviewed Kristen Johnson not too long ago, and she's actually bringing her newsletter, The Light, over to our network as a blog post each week.
Oh,
Great.
yeah.
Awesome.
We're in talks with her right now of doing her own show that will focus on the light. And so it's really cool. That's kind of what we're doing. I think a lot of people in this space feel as if their voices have been taken.
Yeah.
And the H3 Network's here to say, here's your voice back. And so
Yeah.
we're having a lot of fun with it. We It's kind of like the criminal justice Netflix, but it's free. Our monthly subscriptions don't go up every month, cost
Yeah.
wise.
Maybe with your permission, we'll put one of the episodes up on
Yeah.
Pando for the incarcerated to watch, and
Start using clips of it for our hodgepodge.
for the hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, take some clips with your permission.
With your
we'll do that.
permission.
Yeah, I'd love that. That's the whole point is to get it out there to more people. And so we are we're really working on this with Adovo, Origin, Nucleus,
Okay.
Paytel, Max Content, Smart Communication, pretty much all the tablets right now. We're
Okay.
working to get all the shows on. So yeah, any way you can let people know it's there, that's what it's here for. I think a lot of times people in prison think that if I give you something, what do I get in return? And
Yeah.
basically, when we talk to people and we set them up with their shows, they pitch ideas for their own shows and stuff for the network. And when I give them the green light on the show, they're like, okay, what do you want? I'm like, nothing. This is my legacy project. This is just a way of getting more hope, help, and humor to people who are hurting. And that's what we're doing. So it's pretty awesome to just
Which tells me that God put it in the right person's hands.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what's really cool too is it's the little things for me. So one of our shows is the Prison Pod. Some people may be familiar with it because it's been around for 4 seasons so far. She's bringing her 5th season over to the network. And what's cool is one of our other hosts does like the intro, outro voiceovers for her show. And then this person's doing the voiceovers for this show. So it's really cool to see the collective community because that's what it takes. It takes an army coming together.
Yeah.
So
and I understand
incredible.
you reached out to someone I'm a huge fan of also, Fred Klatt. I heard from his brother Derek that you had reached out to them. You going to be able to work out anything there with Fred?
Yeah, we're looking at doing, so we have some shows in production, but also during like little, what you call like off seasons, like in between different seasons that would air, we're doing like these little mini series on like book clubs and different things like that. And we're looking at doing something with Fred to do a comedy sort of, like 3-parter where we talk to him, but also share clips of some of his routines so people can again have that humor part.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah,
They're good people.
They really are. They got great hearts.
They are. And we've noticed the same thing that just as well as yourself, we've just met so many different people from different ministries that God has definitely put in our path. He's put in our place. We're networking together. We're doing things together. And I just love that camaraderie. And, because there's so many places that think it's a competition when really it's not. It's not. We all have the same purpose. We're all serving the same boss. So I love it.
Yeah, I was Planet of the Apes, like the new ones. There's a scene where Caesar, like the main ape, he goes, "Apes together, strong." And I'm like, you know what? That's actually so true. We're stronger together, and so that's what matters. And I think there's an old African proverb that says, "If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together." And I think that ultimately we want to take people together that can not only go further but grow further. And so that's what we're doing to the H3 network.
There's that grow again.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been growing, but I need to shrink.
I was growing horizontally at one point too. I grew up as what I call a 4x4 kid. I was 4 foot tall, 4 foot wide, and so I'm learning to grow vertically now, and not horizontally.
We're working on it with this one.
I tell people I'm not really a short, fat guy. I'm a tall guy stuffed into a little guy's body.
There you go. That's right.
Look, I promise you we would only take an hour, and we're coming up on that. And I haven't even talked about your publishing company yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Tell us and give us your elevator pitch on your publishing company and what all you do.
Yeah, so we've been talking about Joseph a lot today. And so what's cool is we call it Manasseh Publishing. Joseph's firstborn son, right from when he went from the pit to the prison to the palace. When he first got to the palace, he had a son and he named him Manasseh, which simply meant that God helped me forget. And it was a turning point for Joseph in his life. And we decided to launch a publishing company called Manasseh Publishing because we wanted it to be a turning point for a lot of people to say, here's my Manasseh. Here's my firstborn. Here's my moment of leaving the old life of from prisoner to becoming like that published author. And so we help people write, or excuse me, we help people publish their books and market their books and just do it in a hybrid form. So we not only get it on Amazon, but places like Barnes and Noble,
Great.
Walmart, and so on.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that for a while. It's been a lot of fun just to see people add those titles to their life of saying that they're now a published author. Is such a good moment for them. And so Manasseh Books.
Is there a high price tag to do something like that?
It can
Someone
get
wants
high
to get
price with
into
a
it?
hybrid world where you pay like a big upfront cost. But what we've done is we do customizable packages. A lot of those hybrid publishers, what they'll say is it's X amount of dollars, but you get 20 things. And it's like, cool, but I only need 3 of those. So
Right.
where's that price? And they don't really give
Yeah.
you that. And so what we do is a 30-minute free consultation and see what does the author actually want to accomplish. And then we put those into this little Excel spreadsheet that gives us a price based off those specific things they want. And then they're only paying for what they want. So that's what keeps it
That's great.
affordable.
Okay, so people who
That's
have
great.
already maybe self-published a book,
Mhm.
and what they're looking for is a way to get that promoted,
Right.
Yeah.
or on in other areas, that would be the kind of thing that you guys would feed into, and you don't have to worry about then cover design and all that, right?
Yeah, we've worked with some authors who already had a book who just wanted to get it out there to the world a little bit better. And so we've helped with that. That's like
Didn't ask that question for selfish purposes.
there you go. Well,
Okay.
I'll tell you this, not only do I have all these things going on, but I'm finishing my master's in a
Wow.
semester. I'll be done. But it's all around communications, it's all around social media management. And so that's like right up my alley. And so that's what I really love doing is helping people build that platform so they can stand a little
Yeah.
higher
That's
and people can see their message a little bit clearer.
Wonderful. Now, one last question then, because I know we got to let you go.
Mhm.
When you got out, was any of this in your plan, or have you had to alter your plan as you go?
Yeah, I knew I put in the GPS where I wanted to go to have a successful life. And all the past, all the detours that I've taken were not part of it. But that's what makes it beautiful is that God's directing my path and it's bigger and better than I ever thought. And it
Yeah.
goes back to if I only knew back then what I
Yeah.
know right now and that nothing is wasted. And so he's taken the detours and he's turned them into something so beautiful
Yeah.
that's a bigger destiny than I ever thought. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of times
If you had just only accomplished what you had thought that you were going to, what you had planned to accomplish, then you would have been limiting yourself.
yeah, I thought sometimes barriers meant I was broken, but barriers were just, well, right around it was the breakthrough. And so I think we have to understand that barriers can be a good thing. And so some of the barriers that led to detours have set up my life for something better and more purpose. So
So sometimes those barriers are meant to lead you in a different direction, right?
yeah,
To
Mhm.
Yeah.
avoid pitfalls.
Yeah.
right. It's like that what's that game where you a pinball, like
Yeah.
you actually get more points by
Yeah,
going
by
off
bouncing off.
Yeah.
yeah, bouncing off the barrier. So there you go. I just got more points than everyone else right now.
Yeah.
That's great.
Racking up some points. That's all I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Racking up points. Well, excellent. Noah, what did we forget to ask about?
Gosh, I think that's it. It's a lot that we have going on, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of times I will say that I get asked like, "How do you do it all?" We've surrounded ourselves with a good team,
Yeah.
and I owe it to a lot of them. And I tell people that all the time. Like, community matters, but positive community is what you're looking for. And so anyone who's like, you just have big visions, God's
Yeah.
giving you great visions for things ahead. Don't ever think that you have to do it alone. Come
Yeah.
alongside people and the right people.
And we want to stay, abreast of what you're doing. We want to always know what's going on. Pop in, let us know. Come back for another, episodes and let us know how things are going and what new things you have going on.
Yes, I love what y'all are doing. I just said y'all, so I'm from the South, but I
Right.
love what you're both doing so much. And got
we
behind
didn't even give
bars.
him the Southerner test, did we?
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Skip that. Yeah.
I'm good for it. I'll win every time with Southern Test. So I don't bleed red. I bleed sweet tea. So
Yeah,
I'm
there you
in
go.
for the long haul on that. But I love what you're both doing. And then, God Behind Bars and Pando, they're doing some amazing stuff. And the team over there has been super supportive. Isaac and Grayson and some of those guys have
Yeah.
really helped us, get this out there.
Yeah, they're great over there.
And
They
speaking of
really
that,
are.
you can actually
We tend to
read.
work a lot with Jordan and Emily and
Okay,
Dave
yeah.
Park.
Yeah. And you can read Chaos. Thanks to them, you can read Chaos on the Pando app. So check out Chaos on
Well,
there.
there you go.
There you
So if
go.
you're watching this, check out Chaos
Yeah.
on Pando. And those video courses you were mentioning earlier, are those on Edovo or
Those are on Adovo for sure.
and what's it called?
George,
How do they
I
find
hear
it?
keys.
I Hear Keys.
I hear
So you
keys.
can find the video courses for I Hear Keys on Edovo.
Love it.
Yeah.
And we want to hear from you that you checked it
Yeah.
out. If someone wants to get in touch with you, can they?
Yeah, the easiest way, we get a lot of people from like our website. So just go on over to the noahasher.com. Yes, noahasher.com was taken. That's why it's the. Don't judge me. But but it's just the the noahasher.com.
Okay, but for those who are incarcerated that can't do that.
Yeah, we don't have a way to do letters right now. We are changing POs and PO boxes and all that. And so when I do have that, I'll let you know and we can
Okay.
throw that up there. But if you want to write Kristen, if you have Kristen stuff, you can write Kristen. She works with us, and so she'll get it to me.
Well,
Okay.
I'll tell you what, if you want to, we'll put our address up there and you can
That'll
put
work.
care of Noah Asher and
Yeah.
we'll forward that on to
And-
him and
yeah.
make sure he gets it
Yeah.
because we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, for sure.
And with that, I don't know. I think,
That's a wrap.
should we do an altar call?
It's up to you.
Let's you mind, Noah, let's do this real quickly. You may have been listening to all this and you know what? I want to hear the keys. I'm not a Christian, but I recognize how important that is. And I want a relationship with Jesus Christ. Well, if you're watching this on Pando, there is a button right there that says accept Christ. And if you are feeling called to do that today, you tap on that accept Christ button and you'll be led to a video from the CEO of God Behind Bars, and he's going to tell you about salvation and lead you through a prayer.
Yeah.
And there's another button on that screen that says, I'm ready to accept Christ. If you tap on that, I'm ready to accept Christ, everything changes.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You will be a born again child of God, a new creation. Even that button's going to change and say Christ accepted. You only get to do that once. And we invite you to do that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, I do want to say one thing is as we're talking about I hear keys, we're talking about all these different ways that it can look for different people and how it can be difficult at moments and difficult in this season and that season. But what's so cool is that scripture says that Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door. And if you knock, I'll let you in. You don't need a special key. You don't need to do something to earn the key. You simply just have to knock and he'll answer. And so if that's you, knock today. He's there for you.
Yep.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for that word.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being on the edge. You talked about people being on the ledge and you wanting to call them. That's one of the reasons we named our podcast The Edge.
Yeah.
Because so many of our viewers live on the edge between their past mistake and their future, the edge between incarceration and freedom, the edge between being on the fringes of society versus being in society. And
There's all kinds of edges out there.
Yeah, there are. And we all are on one edge or another.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, I thought
He thought it would be edgy to call it the edge.
Yeah.
It's edgy.
Yeah. And that's us. We're loaded with edges. All right, Noah Asher, thank you so much for being on the edge today. We appreciate you, and we'll keep you in our prayers, brother, because you're a busy guy.
It was awesome getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for letting me come on.
Yeah.
And with that, honey, it's a wrap, huh?
That's a wrap.
All right, all of you, we'd love to hear from you. Write to us. Those of you that are watching in the free world, like, share, and subscribe. You know what they say.
And
We appreciate you. God bless you. And we'll see you next time right here on
the Edge.
Edge.
Bye. Hey, thanks for joining us today on The Edge, a Less Than the Least Ministries podcast.